In The Secret Power and Effects of Love, Ralph Waldo Trine explores love as the most powerful and divine force in the universe and discusses how the effects of love influence health, happiness, and our relationships with others. Ultimately, this chapter encourages readers to practice love as a spiritual principle, recognizing it as the secret to a fulfilled and harmonious life. Welcome, I am Daisy, your hostess. Join me as we continue in the reading of the book titled In Tune with the Infinite by Ralph Waldo Trine. To access previous chapters, make sure to visit my playlist. While the author may have spiritual approach to explaining the power that love has and its influence, it's interesting that science has a lot to say on this topic matter as well. Science shows that love and strong social bonds significantly improve health by reducing stress, boosting immunity, lowering blood pressure, improving sleep, and even increasing longevity. Thanks to neurochemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin, while also motivating healthier habits and providing emotional support. Conversely, relationship stress or loss negatively impact health, activating pain centers in the brain, highlighting the crucial role of connection for well-being. And I do have some links for you to check out in the description of this video. Now, the following chapter, titled Wisdom and Interior Illumination, which is included in this video, highlights the true wisdom is not merely intellectual knowledge, but a deep intuitive understanding of universal truths that bring clarity, purpose, and a direction to life. Doing this helps in gaining insights, discernment, and a sense of harmony with the divine plan. And all this allows for a greater sense of fulfillment in our everyday lives. So I do hope that you enjoy this book. I look forward to your comments. Let me know of any golden nuggets that you're able to discover throughout these pages. And please do take a moment, hit the like button. And now I turn the page. Power and Effects of Love. This is the spirit of infinite love. The moment we recognize ourselves as one with it, we become so filled with love that we see only the good in all. And when we realize that we are all one with this infinite spirit, then we realize that in a sense, we are all one with each other. When we come into recognition of this fact, we can then do no harm to anyone, to anything. We find that we are all members of the one great body, and that no portion of the body can be harmed without all the other portions suffering thereby. When we fully realize the great fact of the oneness of all life, that all are partakers from this one infinite source, and so that the same life is the life in each individual, then prejudices go and hatreds cease. Love grows and reigns supreme. Then, wherever we go, whenever we come in contact with the fellow men, we are able to recognize the God within. We thus look only for the good, and we find it. It always pays. There is a deep scientific fact underlying the great truth. He that takes the sword shall perish by the sword. The moment we come into a realization of the subtle powers of the thought forces, we can quickly see that the moment we entertain any thought of hatred toward another, he gets the effects of these diabolical forces that go out from us, and has the same thoughts of hatred aroused in him, which in turn return to the sender. Then, when we understand the effects of the passion, hatred, or anger, even upon the physical body, we can see how detrimental, how expensive this is. The same is true in regard to all kindred thoughts or passions, envy, criticism, jealousy, scorn. In the ultimate, we shall find that in entertaining feelings of this nature toward another, we always suffer far more than the one toward whom we entertain them. And then when we fully realize the fact that selfishness is at the root of all error, sin, and crime, and that ignorance is the basis of all selfishness, with what charity we come to look upon the acts of all. It is the ignorant man who seeks his own ends at the expense of the greater whole. It is the ignorant man thereof who is the selfish man. The truly wise man is never selfish. He is a seer and recognizes the fact that he, a single member of the one great body, is benefited in just the degree that the entire body is benefited. and so he seeks nothing for himself that he would not equally seek for all mankind. If selfishness is at the bottom of all error, sin and crime and ignorance is the basis of all selfishness, then when we see a manifestation of either of these qualities, if we are true to the highest within us, we will look for and will seek to call forth the good in each individual with whom we come in contact. When God speaks to God, then God responds and shows forth as God. But when devil speaks to devil, then devil responds, and the devil is always to pay. I sometimes hear a person say, "I don't see any good in him." No, then you are no seer. Look deeper, and you will find the very God in every human soul. But remember, it takes a God to recognize a God. Christ always spoke to the highest, the truest, and the best in man. He knew and he recognized the God in each because he had first realized it in himself. He ate with publicans and sinners. Abominable, the scribes and Pharisees said. They were so wrapped up in their own conceits, their own self-centeredness, hence their own ignorance, that they had never found the God in themselves, and so they never dreamed that it was the real life of even publicans and sinners. In the degree that we hold a person in the thought of evil or of error, do we suggest evil and error to him? In the degree that he is sensitively organized or not well individualized, and so subject to the suggestions of the thought forces from others, will he be influenced? And so in this way we may be sharers in the very evil doing in which we hold another in thought. In the same way, when we hold a person in the thought of the right, the good, and the true, righteous goodness, and the truth are suggested to him, and thus we have a most beneficent influence on his life and conduct. If our hearts go out in love to all with whom we come in contact, we inspire love, and the same ennobling and warming influences of love always return to us from those in whom we inspire them. There is a deep scientific principle underlying the precept. If you would have all the world love you, you must first love all the world. In the degree that we love, will we be loved. Thoughts are forces, each creates of its kind, each comes back laden with the effect that corresponds to itself and of which it is the cause. Then let your secret thoughts be fair. They have a vital part and share in shaping words and molding fate. God's system is so intricate. I know of no better practice than that of a friend who continually holds himself in an attitude of mind that he continually sends out his love in the form of the thought, "Dear everybody, I love you." And when we realize the fact that a thought invariably produces its effect before it returns or before it ceases, we can see how he is continually breathing out a blessing not only upon all with whom he comes in contact, but upon all the world. These same thoughts of love, moreover, tokened in various ways, are continually coming to him from all quarters. Even animals feel the effects of these forces. Some animals are much more sensitively organized than many people are, and consequently they get the effects of our thoughts, our mental states and emotions much more readily than many people do. Therefore, whenever we meet an animal, we can do it good by sending out to it these thoughts of love. It will feel the effects whether we simply entertain or whether we voice them. And it is often interesting to note how quickly it responds and how readily it gives evidence of its appreciation of this love and consideration on our part. What a privilege, and how enjoyable it would be to live and walk in a world where we meet only gods. In such a world you can live. In such a world I can live. For in the degree that we come into this higher realization do we see only the God in each human soul. And when we are thus able to see him in everyone we meet, we then live in such a world. And when we thus recognize the God in everyone, we by this recognition help to call it forth ever more and more. What a privilege, this privilege of yours, this privilege of mine. That hypocritical judging of another is something then with which we can have nothing to do. For we have the power of looking beyond the evolving, changing, error-making self and seeing the real, the changeless, the eternal self, which by and by will show forth in the full beauty of holiness. We are then large enough also to realize the fact that when we condemn another, by that very act, we condemn ourselves. This realization so fills us with love that we continually overflow it, and all with whom we come in contact feel its warming and life-giving power. These in turn send back the same feelings of love to us, and so we continually attract love from all quarters. Tell me how much one loves, and I will tell you how much he has seen of God. Tell me how much he loves, and I will tell you how much he lives with God. Tell me how much he loves, and I will tell you how far into the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of harmony, he has entered. For love is the fulfilling of the law. And in a sense, love is everything. It is the key to life, and its influences are those that move the world. Live only in the thought of love for all, and you will draw love to you from all. Live in the thought of malice or hatred, and malice and hatred will come back to you. For evil poisons, malice shafts like boomerangs return, inflicting wounds that will not heal, while rage and anger burn. Every thought that you entertain is a force that goes out, and every thought comes back laden with its kind. This is an immutable law. Every thought you entertain has moreover a direct effect upon your body. Love and its kindred emotions are the normal and the natural, those in accordance with the eternal order of the universe, for God is love. These have a life-giving, health-engendering influence upon your body, besides beautifying your countenance, enriching your voice, and making you ever more attractive in every way. And as it is true that in the degree that you hold your thoughts of love for all, you call the same from them in return. And as these have a direct effect upon your mind, and through your mind upon your body, it is as so much life force added to your own from without. You are then continually building this into your both mental and your physical life, and so your life is enriched by its influence. Hatred and all its kindred emotions are the unnatural, the abnormal, the perversions, and so out of harmony with the eternal order of the universe. For if love is the fulfilling of the law, then these, its opposites, are direct violations of law, and there can never be a violation of law without its attendant pain and suffering in one form or another. There is no escape from this. And what is the result of this particular form of violation? When you allow thoughts of anger, hatred, malice, jealousy, envy, criticism, or scorn to exercise sway, they have a corroding and poisoning effect upon the organism. They pull it down, and if allowed to continue, will eventually tear it to pieces by externalizing themselves in the particular forms of disease they give rise to. And then, in addition to the destructive influences from your own mind, you are continually calling the same influences from other minds. And these come as destructive forces augmenting your own, thus aiding in the tearing down process. And so love inspires love. Hatred breeds hatred. Love and goodwill stimulate and build up the body. Hatred and malice corrode and tear it down. Love is a savor of life into life. Hatred is a savor of death unto death. There are loyal hearts, there are spirits brave, there are souls that are pure and true. Then give to the world the best you have, and the best will come back to you. Give love, and love to your heart will flow, a strength in your utmost need. Have faith, and score of hearts will show their faith in your word and deed. I hear it said, how in regard to one who bears me hatred, towards whom I have entertained no such thoughts and feelings, and so have not been the cause of his becoming my enemy? This may be true, but the chances are that you will have but few enemies if there is nothing of an antagonistic nature in your own mind and heart. Be sure there is nothing of this nature. But if hatred should come from another without apparent cause on your part, then meet it from first to last with thoughts of love and goodwill. In this way you can, so to speak, so neutralize its effect that it cannot reach you and so cannot harm you. Love is positive and stronger than hatred. Hatred can always be conquered by love. On the other hand, if you meet hatred with hatred, you simply intensify it. You add fuel to the flame already kindled upon which it will feed and grow, and so you increase and intensify the evil conditions. Nothing is to be gained by it. Everything is to be lost. By sending love for hatred, you will be able so to neutralize it that it will not only have no effect upon you, but will not be able even to reach you. But more than this, you will be this course sooner or later be able to literally to transmute the enemy into the friend. Meet hatred with hatred and you degrade yourself. Meet hatred with love and you elevate not only yourself but also the one who bears you hatred. The Persian sage has said, "Always meet petulance with gentleness and perverseness with kindness. A gentle hand can lead even an elephant by a hair. Reply to thine enemy with gentleness. Opposition to peace is sin." The Buddha says, "If a man foolishly does me wrong, I will return him the protection of my ungrudging love. The more evil comes from him, the more good shall go from me. The wise man avenges injuries by benefits," says the Chinese. Return good for evil, overcome anger by love. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love, says the Hindu. The truly wise men or women will recognize no one as an enemy. Occasionally we hear the expression, "Never mind, I'll get even with him." Will you? And how will you do it? You can do it in one of two ways. You can, as you have in mind, deal with him as he deals, or apparently deals with you. Pay him, as we say, in his own coin. If you do this, you will get even with him by sinking yourself to his level, and both of you will suffer by it. Or you can show yourself the larger. You can send him love for hatred, kindness for ill treatment, and so get even with him by raising him to the higher level. But remember that you can never help another without, by that very act, helping yourself. And if forgetful of self, then in most all cases the value to you is greater than the service you render another. If you are ready to treat him as he treats you, then you show clearly that there is in you that which draws the hatred and ill treatment to you. You deserve what you're getting and should not complain, nor would you complain if you were wise. By following the other course, you most effectually accomplish your purpose. You gain a victory for yourself, and at the same time you do a great service for him, for which it is evident he stands greatly in need. Thus, you may become his savior. He in turn may become the savior of other error-making and consequently care-encumbered men and women. Many times the struggles are greater than we can ever know. We need more gentleness and sympathy and compassion in our common human life. Then we will neither blame nor condemn. Instead of blaming or condemning, we will sympathize, and all the more we will comfort one another, for the way is often dreary, and the feet are often weary, and the heart is very sad. There is a heavy burden bearing, when it seems that none are caring, and we half forget that ever we were glad. Comfort one another, with the hand clasped close and tender, with the sweet love can render, and he looks of friendly eyes. Do not wait with grace unspoken, while life's daily bread is broken, gentle speech is off like manna from the skies. When we come fully to realize the great fact that all evil and error and sin, with all their consequent sufferings, come through ignorance, then wherever we see a manifestation of these in whatever form, if our hearts are right, we will have compassion, sympathy, and compassion for the one in whom we see them. Compassion will then change itself into love, and love will manifest itself in kindly service. Such is the divine method. And so instead of aiding in trampling and keeping a weaker one down, we will hold him up until he can stand alone and become the master. But all life growth is from within out, and one becomes a true master in the degree that the knowledge of the divinity of his own nature dawns upon his inner consciousness, and so brings him to a knowledge of the higher laws. And in no way can we so effectually hasten this dawning in the inner consciousness of another as by showing forth the divinity within ourselves simply by the way we live. By example and not by precept. By living, not by preaching. By doing, not by professing. By living the life, not by dogmatizing as to how it should be lived. There is no contagion equal to the contagion of life. Whatever we sow, that shall we also reap, and each thing sown produces of its kind. We can kill not only by doing another bodily injury directly, but we can and we do kill by every antagonistic thought. Not only do we thus kill, but while we kill, we suicide. Many a man has been made sick by having the ill thoughts of a number of people centered upon him. Some have been actually killed. Put hatred into the world, and we make it a literal hell. Put love into the world, and heaven, with all its beauties and glories, becomes a reality. Not to love is not to live, or it is to live a living death. The life that goes out in love to all is the life that is full and rich, and continually expanding in beauty and in power. Such is the life that becomes ever more inclusive, and hence larger in its scope and influence. The larger the man and the woman, the more inclusive they are in their love and their friendships. The smaller the man and the woman, the more dwarfed and dwindling their natures, the more they pride themselves upon their exclusiveness. Anyone, a fool or an idiot, can be exclusive. It comes easy. It takes and it signifies a large nature to be universal, to be inclusive. Only the man or the woman of a small, personal, self-centered, self-seeking nature is exclusive. The man or the woman of a large, royal, unself-centered nature never is. The small nature is the one that continually strives for effect. The large nature never does. The one goes here and there in order to gain recognition, in order to attach himself to the world. The other stays at home and draws the world to him. The one loves merely himself. The other loves all the world. But in his larger love for all the world, he finds himself included. Verily then, the more one loves, the nearer he approaches to God, for God is the spirit of infinite love. And when we come into the realization of our oneness with this infinite spirit, then divine love so fills us that, enriching and enrapturing our own lives from them, it flows out to enrich the life of all the world. In coming into the realization of oneness with the infinite life, we are brought at once into right relations with our fellow men. We are brought into harmony with the great law, that we find our own lives in losing them in the service of others. We are brought to a knowledge of the fact that all life is one, and so that we are all parts of the one great whole. We then realize that we can't do for another without, at the same time, doing for ourselves. We also realize that we cannot do harm to another without, by the very act, doing harm to ourselves. We realize that the man who lives to himself alone lives a little dwarfed and stunted life because he has no part in this larger life of humanity. But the one who is in service loses his own life in this larger life, has his own life increased and enriched 1,000 or 1,000,000-fold, and every joy, every happiness, everything of value coming to each member of this greater whole comes as such to him, for he has a part in the life of each and all. And here let a word be said in regard to true service. Peter and John were one day going up to the temple, and as they were entering the gate, they were met by a poor cripple who asked them for alms. Instead of giving him something to supply the day's needs and then leaving him in the same dependent condition for the morrow, Peter did him a real service, and a real service for all mankind by saying, "Silver and gold have I none, but such as I have I give unto thee." And then he made him whole. He thus brought him into the condition where he could help himself. In other words, the greatest service we can do for another is to help him to help himself. To help him directly might be weakening, though not necessarily. It depends entirely upon circumstances, but to help one to help himself is never weakening, but always encouraging and strengthening, because it leads him to a larger and stronger life. There is no better way to help one to help himself than to bring him to a knowledge of himself. There is no better way to bring one to a knowledge of himself than to lead him to a knowledge of the powers that are lying dormant within his own soul. There is nothing that will enable him to come more readily or more completely into an awakened knowledge of the powers that are lying dormant within his own soul than to bring him into the conscious, vital realization of his oneness with the infinite life and power, so that he may open himself to it in order that he may work and manifest through him. We will find that these same great truths lie at the very bottom of the solution of our social situation, and we will also find that we will never have a full and permanent solution of it until they are fully recognized and built upon. Wisdom and interior illumination. This is the spirit of infinite wisdom, and in the degree that we open ourselves to it, does the highest wisdom manifest itself to and through us. We can in this way go to the very heart of the universe itself and find the mysteries hidden to the majority of mankind, hidden to them, though not hidden of themselves. In order for the highest wisdom and insight, we must have absolute confidence in the divine guiding us, but not through the channel of someone else. And why should we go to another for our knowledge and wisdom? With God is no respect of persons. Why should we seek these things secondhand? Why should we thus stultify our own innate powers? Why should we not go direct to the infinite source itself? If any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God. Before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. When we thus go directly to the infinite source itself, we are no longer slaves to personalities, institutions, or books. We should always keep ourselves open to suggestion of truth from these agencies. We should always regard them as agencies, however, and never as sources. We should never recognize them as masters, but simply as teachers. With Browning, we must recognize the great fact that truth is within ourselves. It takes no rise from outward things. Whatever you may believe, there is an inmost center in us all, where truth abides in fullness. There is no more important injunction in all the world, nor one with a deeper interior meaning than, to thine own self be true. In other words, be true to your own soul, for it is through your own soul that the voice of God speaks to you. This is the interior guide. This is the light that lighten every man that cometh into the world. This is the conscience. This is the intuition. This is the voice of the higher self, the voice of the soul, the voice of God. Thou shalt hear a voice behind thee saying, This is the way, walk ye in it. When Elijah was on the mountain, it was after the various physical commotions and manifestations that he heard the still, small voice, the voice of his own soul, through which the infinite God was speaking. If we will but follow the voice of intuition, it will speak ever more clearly and more plainly, until by and by it will be absolute and unerring in its guidance. The great trouble with us is that we do not listen to and do not follow this voice within our souls, and so we become as a house divided against itself. We are pulled this way and that, and we are never certain of anything. I have a friend who listens so carefully to this inner voice, who in other words always acts so quickly and so fully in accordance with his intuitions, and whose life as a consequence is so absolutely guided by them, that he always does the right thing at the right time and in the right way. He always knows when to act and how to act, and he is never in the condition of a house divided against itself. But someone says, may it not be dangerous for us to act always upon our intuitions? Suppose we should have an intuition to do harm to someone. We need not be afraid of this, however, for the voice of the soul, this voice of God speaking through the soul, will never direct one to do harm to another, nor to do anything that is not in accordance with the highest standards of right and truth and justice. And if you at any time have a prompting of this kind, know that it is not the voice of intuition. It is some characteristic of your lower self that is prompting you. Reason is not to be set aside, but it is to be continually illumined by this higher spiritual perception, and in the degree that it is thus illumined, will it become an agent of light and power. When one becomes thoroughly individualized, he enters into the realm of knowledge and wisdom. And to be individualized is to recognize no power outside of the infinite power that is back of all. When one recognizes this great fact and opens himself to this spirit of infinite wisdom, he then enters upon the road to the true education, and mysteries that before were closed now reveal themselves to him. This must indeed be the foundation of all true education, this evolving from within, this evolving of what has been evolved by the infinite power. All things that is valuable for us to know will come to us if we will but open ourselves to the voice of this infinite spirit. It is thus that we become seers and have the power of seeing into the very heart of things. There are no new stars, there are no new laws or forces, but we can so open ourselves to the spirit of infinite wisdom that we can discover and recognize those that have not been known before, and in this way they become new to us. When in this way we come into a knowledge of truth, we no longer need facts that are continually changing. We can then enter into the quiet of our own interior selves. We can open the window and look out, and thus gather the facts as we choose. This is true wisdom. Wisdom is the knowledge of God. Wisdom comes by intuition. It far transcends knowledge. Great knowledge, knowledge of many things, may be had by virtue simply of a very retentive memory. It comes by tuition. But wisdom far transcends knowledge, in that knowledge is a mere incident of this deeper wisdom. He would enter into the realm of wisdom, must first divest himself of all intellectual pride. He must become as a little child. Prejudices, preconceived opinions, and beliefs always stand in the way of true wisdom. Conceited opinions are always suicidal in their influences. They bar the door to the entrance of truth. All about us we see men in the religious world, in the world of science, in the political, in the social world, who through intellectual pride are so wrapped in their own conceits and prejudices that larger and later revelations of truth can find no entrance to them. And instead of growing and expanding, they're becoming dwarfed and stunted and still more incapable of receiving truth. Instead of actively aiding in the progress of the world, there are so many dead sticks in the way that would retard the wheel of progress. This, however, they can never do. Such always in time get bruised, broken, and left behind, while God's triumphal car of truth moves steadily onward. When the steam engine was still being experimented with, and before it was perfected sufficiently to come into practical use, a well-known Englishman, well known then in the scientific circles, wrote an extended pamphlet proving that it would be possible for it ever to be used in ocean navigation, that is, in a trip involving the crossing of the ocean, because it would be utterly impossible for any vessel to carry it with sufficient coal for the use of its furnace. And the interesting feature of the whole matter was that the very first steam vessel that made the trip to England, to America, had among its cargo a part of the first edition of this carefully prepared pamphlet. There was only one edition. Many editions might be sold now. This seems indeed an amusing fact, but far more amusing is the man who voluntarily closes himself to truth because, forsooth, it does not come through conventional or orthodox or heretofore accepted channels, or because it may not be in full accord with or possibly may be opposed to established usages or beliefs. On the contrary, let there be many windows in your soul, that all the glory of the universe may beautify it, not the narrow pane of one poor creed can catch the radiant rays that shine from countless sources. Tear away the blinds of superstition. Let the light pour through their fair windows, broad as truth itself and high as heaven. Tune your ear to all the worldless music of the stars and to the voice of nature, and your heart shall turn to truth and goodness as the plant turns to the sun. 1,000 unseen hands reach down to help you to their peace-crowned heights, and all the forces of the firmament shall fortify your strength. Be not afraid to thrust aside half-truths and grasp the whole. There is a great law in connection with the coming of truth. It is this: whenever a man or a woman shuts himself or herself to the entrance of truth on account of intellectual pride, preconceived opinions, prejudices, or for whatever reason, there is a great law which says that truth in its fullness will come to that one from no source. And on the other hand, when a man or woman opens himself or herself fully to the entrance of truth from whatever source it may come, there's an equally great law which says that truth will flow into him or to her from all sources, from all quarters. Such becomes the free man, the free woman, for it is the truth that makes us free. The other remains in bondage, for truth has had no invitation and will not enter where it is not fully and freely welcomed. And where truth is denied entrance, the rich blessings it carries with it cannot take up their abode. On the contrary, when this is the case, it sends an envoy carrying with it atrophy, disease, death, physically and spiritually, as well as intellectually. And the man who would rob another of his free and unfettered search for truth, who would stand as the interpreter of truth for another, with the intent of remaining in this position rather than endeavoring to lead him to the place where he can be his own interpreter, is more to be shunned than a thief and a robber. The injury he works is far greater, for he is doing direct and positive injury to the very life of the one he thus holds. Who has ever appointed any man, whoever he may be, as the keeper, the custodian, the dispenser of God's illimitable truth? Many indeed are moved, and so are called to be teachers of truth, but the true teacher will never stand as the interpreter of truth for another. The true teacher is the one whose endeavor is to bring the one he teaches to a true knowledge of himself, and hence of his own interior powers, that he may become his own interpreter. All others are, generally speaking, those animated by purely personal motives, self-aggrandizement, or personal gain. Moreover, he who would claim to have all truth and the only truth is a bigot, a fool, or a knave. In the Eastern literature is a fable of a frog. The frog lived in a well, and out of his little well he had never been. One day a frog whose home was in the sea came to see his well. Interested in all things, he went in. "Who are you? Where do you live?" said the frog in the well. "I am so-and-so, and my home is in the sea." "The sea? What is that? Where is that?" "It's a very large body of water, and not far away." "How big is your sea?" "Oh, very big." "As big as this?" pointing to a little stone lying near. "Oh, much bigger." "As big as this?" pointing to the board upon which they were sitting. "Oh, much bigger." "How much bigger, then?" "Why, the sea in which I live is bigger than your entire well. It would make millions of wells such as yours." "Nonsense, nonsense! You are a deceiver and a falsifier. Get out of my well. Get out of my well. I want nothing to do with any such frogs as you." "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free," is the promise. You shall close yourselves to truth. You shall live in your own conceits, and your own conceits shall make fools and idiots of you. Would be a statement applicable not to a few, and to not a few who pride themselves upon their superior intellectual attainments. Idiocy is arrested mental growth. Closing oneself for whatever reason to truth and hence to growth brings a certain type of idiocy, though it may not be called by this name. And on the other hand, another type is that arrested growth caused by taking all things for granted, without proving them for oneself, merely because they come from a particular person, a particular book, a particular institution. This is caused by one's always looking without instead of being true to the light within, and carefully tending it, that it may give an ever clearer light. With brave and intrepid Walt Whitman, we should all be able to say, "From this hour I ordain myself loose of limits and imaginary lines. going where I list, my own master total and absolute, listening to others, considering well what they say, pausing, searching, receiving, contemplating, gently, but with undeniable will, divesting myself of the holds that would hold me. Great should be the joy that God's boundless truth is open to all, open equally to all, and that it will make each one its dwelling place in proportion as he earnestly desires it and opens himself to it. And in regard to the wisdom that guides us in our daily life, there is nothing that is right and well for us to know that may not be known when we recognize the law of its coming and are able to wisely use it. Let us know that all things are ours as soon as we know how to appropriate them. I hold it as changeless law, from which no soul can sway or swerve. We have that in us which will draw whatever we need or most deserve. If the time comes when we know not what course to pursue, when we know not which way to turn, the fault lies in ourselves. If the fault lies in ourselves, then the correction of this unnatural condition lies also in ourselves. It is never necessary to come into such a state as if we are awake and remain awake to the light and the powers within us. The light is ever shining, and the only thing that is necessary for us diligently to see to is that we permit neither this thing nor that to come between us and the light. With thee is the foundation of life. In thy light shall we see light. Let us hear the words of one of the most highly illumined men I have ever known, and one who has, as a consequence, is never in the dark, when in time comes as to what to do and how to do it. Whenever you are in doubt as to the course you should pursue, after you have turned to every outward means of guidance, let the inward eye see, let the inward ear hear, and allow this simple, natural, beautiful process to go on unimpeded by questionings or doubts. In all dark hours and times of unwanted perplexity, we need to follow one simple direction, found, as all need directions can be found, in the dear old gospel, which so many read, but alas, so few interpret. Enter into thine inner chamber and shut the door. Does this mean that we must literally betake ourselves to a private closet with a key in the door? If it did, then the command could never be obeyed in the open air, on land or sea, and the Christ loved the lakes and the forests far better than the cramping rooms of city-dwelling houses. Still, his counsels are so wide-reaching that there is no spot on earth and no conceivable situation in which any of us may be placed where we cannot follow them. One of the most intuitive men we ever met had a desk in a city office where several other gentlemen were doing business constantly and often talking loudly. Entirely undisturbed by the many various sounds about him, this self-centered, faithful man would, in many moments of perplexity, draw the curtains of privacy so completely about him that he would be as fully enclosed in his own psychic aura, and thereby as effectually removed from all distractions as though he were alone in some primeval wood. Taking his difficulty with him into the mystic silence in the form of a direct question, to which he expected a certain answer, he would remain utterly passive until the reply came, and never once, through many years' experience, did he find himself disappointed or misled. Intuitive perceptions of truth are the daily bread to satisfy our daily hunger. They come like the manna in the desert day by day. Each day brings adequate supply for that day's need only. They must be followed instantly, for dalliance with them means their obscuration, and the more we dally, the more we invite erroneous impressions to cover intuition with a pall of conflicting moral fantasy born of illusions of the Terrence will. One condition is imposed by universal law, and this we must obey. Put all wishes aside save the one desire to know truth. Couple with this one demand the fully consecrated determination to follow what is distinctively perceived as truth. Immediately it is revealed. No other affection must be permitted to share the field with this all-absorbing love of truth for its own sake. Obey this one direction, and never forget that expectation and desire our bride and bridegroom, and forever inseparable, and you will soon find your hitherto darkened way grow luminous with celestial radiance. For with the heaven within, all heavens without incessantly cooperate. This may be termed going into the silence. This it is to perceive and to be guided by the light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. This it is to listen to and be guided by the voice of your own soul, the voice of your higher self. The soul is divine, and in allowing it to become translucent to the infinite spirit, it reveals all things to us. As man turns away from the divine light, do all things become hidden. There is nothing hidden of itself. When the spiritual sense is opened, then it transcends all the limitations of the physical senses and the intellect. And in the degree that we are able to get away from the limitations set by them, and realize that so far as the real life is concerned, it is one with the infinite life, then we begin to reach the place where this voice will always speak, where it will never fail us if we follow it, and as a consequence where we will always have the divine illumination and guidance. To know this and to live in this realization is not to live in heaven hereafter, but to live in heaven here and now, today and every day. No human soul need be without it. When we turn our face in the right direction, it comes as simply and as naturally as the flower blooms and the winds blow. It is not to be bought with money or with price. It is a condition waiting simply to be realized by rich and by poor, by king and by peasant, by master and by servant the world over. All are equal heirs to it. And so the peasant, if he find it first, lives a life far transcending in beauty and in real power the life of his king. The servant, if he find it first, lives a life surpassing the life of his master. If you would find the highest, the fullest, and the richest life that not only this world but that any world can know, then do away with the sense of the separateness of your life from the life of God. Hold to the thought of your oneness. In the degree that you do this, you will find yourself realizing more and more, and as this life of realization is lived, you will find that no good thing will be withheld, for all things are included in this. Then it will be yours, without fears or forebodings, simply to do today what your hands find to do, and so be ready for tomorrow when it comes, knowing that tomorrow will bring tomorrow's supplies for the mental, the spiritual, and the physical life. Remember, however, that tomorrow's supplies are not needed until tomorrow comes. If one is willing to trust himself fully to the law will never fail him. It is the half-hearted trusting to it that brings uncertain and so unsatisfactory results. Nothing is firmer and surer than deity. It will never fail the one who throws himself wholly upon it. The secret of life, then, is to live continually in this realization, whatever one may be doing, wherever one may be, by day and by night, both waking and sleeping. It can be lived in while we are sleeping no less than when we are awake. And here shall we consider a few facts in connection with sleep, in connection with receiving instruction and illumination while asleep. During the process of sleep, it is merely the physical body that is at rest and in quiet. The soul, life, with all its activities goes right on. Sleep is nature's provision for the recuperation of the body, for the rebuilding and hence the replacing of the waste that is continually going on during the waking hours. It is nature's great restorer. If sufficient sleep is not allowed the body so that the rebuilding may equalize the wasting process, the body is gradually depleted and weakened, and any ailment or malady, when it is in this condition, is able to find a more ready entrance. It is for this reason that those who are subject to it will take a cold, as we term it, more readily when the body is tired or exhausted through loss of sleep than at most any other time. The body is in that condition where outside influences can have a more ready effect upon it than when it is in its normal condition. And when they do have an effect, they always go to the weaker portions first. Our bodies are given us to serve far higher purposes than we ordinarily use them for. Especially is this true in the numerous cases where the body is master of its owner. In the degree that we come into the realization of the higher powers of the mind and spirit, in that degree does the body, through their influence upon it, becomes less gross and heavy, finer in its texture and form. And then, because the mind finds a kingdom of enjoyment in itself and in all the higher things it becomes related to, excesses in eating and drinking, as well as all others, naturally and of their own accord, fall away. There also falls away the desire for the heavier, grosser, less valuable kinds of food and drink, such as the flesh of animals, alcoholic drinks, and all things of the class that stimulate the body and the passions rather than build the body and the brain into a strong, clean, well-nourished, enduring, and fibrous condition. In the degree that the body thus becomes less gross and heavy, finer in its texture and form, is there less waste, and what there is more easily replaced, so that it keeps in a more regular and even condition. When this is true, less sleep is actually required, and even the amount that is taken does more for a body of this finer type than it can do for one of the other nature. As the body in this way grows finer, in other words, as the process of its evolution is thus accelerated, it in turn helps the mind and the soul in the realization of ever higher perceptions, and thus body helps mind the same as mind builds body. It was undoubtedly this fact that Browning had in mind when he said, "Let us cry all good things are ours, nor soul helps flesh more now than flesh helps soul." Sleep, then, is for the resting and rebuilding of the body. The soul needs no rest, and while the body is at rest in sleep, the soul life is active, the same as when the body is in activity. There are some, having a deep insight into the soul's activities, who say that we travel when we sleep. Some are able to recall and bring over into the conscious, waking life the scenes visited, the information gained, and the events that have transpired. Most people are not able to do this, and so much that might otherwise be gained is lost. They say, however, that it is in our power, in proportion as we understand the laws, to go where we will, and to bring over into consciousness, waking life, all the experience thus gained. Be this, however, as it may, it certainly is true that while sleeping we have the power, in a perfectly normal and natural way, to get much of value by way of light, instruction, and growth that the majority of people now miss. If the soul life, that which relates us to infinite spirit, is always active, even while the body is at rest, why may not the mind so direct conditions as one falls asleep, that while the body is at rest, it may continually receive illumination from the soul and bring what it thus receives over into the conscious waking life? This indeed can be done, and is done by some to great advantage, and many times the highest inspirations from the soul come in this way, as would seem most natural, since at this time all communications from the outer material world no longer enter. I know those who do much work during sleep, the same as they get much light along desired lines, by charging the mind on going to sleep as to a particular time for waking. It is possible, as many of us know, to wake on the very minute. Not infrequently we have examples of difficult problems that defied solution during waking hours, being solved during sleep. A friend, a well-known journalist, had an extended newspaper article clearly and completely worked out for her in this way. She frequently calls this agency to her aid. She was notified by the managing editor one evening to have the article ready in the morning, an article requiring more than ordinary care, and one in which quite a knowledge of facts was required. It was a matter of connecting with which she knew scarcely anything, and all her effort at finding information regarding it seemed to be of no avail. She set to work, but it seemed as if even her own powers defied her. Failure seemed imminent. Almost in desperation, she decided to retire, and putting the matter into her mind in such a way that she would be able to receive the greatest amount of aid while asleep, she fell asleep and slept soundly until morning. When she awoke, her work of the previous evening was the first thing that came into her mind. She lay quietly for a few minutes, and as she lay there, the article, completely written, seemed to stand before her mind. She ran through it, arose, and without dressing, took her pen and transcribed it onto paper, literally acting simply as her own amanuensis. The mind acting intently along a particular line will continue so to act until some other object of thought carries it along another line. And since in sleep only the body is in quiet while the mind and soul are active, then the mind, on being given a certain direction, when one drops off to sleep, will take up the line along with it is directed, and it can be made in time to bring over into consciousness the results of its activities. Some will be able very soon to get results of this kind, for some it will take longer. Quiet and continued effort will increase the faculty. Then, by virtue of the law of the drawing power of mind, since the mind is always active, we are drawing to us, even while sleeping, influences from the realms kindred to those in which we, in our thoughts, are living before we fall asleep. In this way, we can put ourselves into relation with whatever kinds of influence we choose, and accordingly gain much during the process of sleep. In many ways, the interior faculties are more open and receptive while we are in sleep than while we are awake. Hence the necessity of exercising even greater care as the nature of the thoughts that occupy the mind as we enter into sleep. For there can come to us only what we, by our own order of thought, attract. We have it entirely in our hands, and for the same reason, this greater degree of receptivity during this period, we are able, by understanding and using the law, to gain much of value more readily in this way than when physical senses are fully open to the material world about us. Many will find a practice somewhat after the following nature value. When light or information is desired along any particular line, light or information you feel it is right and wise for you to have, as for example, light in regard to an uncertain course of action. Then as you retire, first bring your mind into the attitude of peace and goodwill for all. You, in this way, bring yourself into a harmonious condition, and in turn attract to yourself these same peaceful conditions from without. Then resting in this sense of peace, quietly and calmly send out your earnest desire for the needed light or information. Cast out of your mind all fears or forebodings lest it come not, for in quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Take the expectant attitude of mind, firmly believing and expecting that when you awake, the desired results will be with you. Then, on awaking, before any thoughts or activities from the outside world come in to absorb the attention, remain for a little while receptive to the intuitions or the impressions that come. When they come, when they manifest themselves clearly, then act upon them without delay. In the degree that you do this, in that degree will the power of doing more effectively grow. Or if for unselfish purposes you desire to grow and develop any of your faculties or to increase the health and strength of your body, take a corresponding attitude of mind, the form of which will readily suggest itself in accordance with your particular needs or desires. In this way, you will open yourself to, you will connect yourself with, and you will set into operation within yourself the particular order of forces that will make for these results. Don't be afraid to voice your desires. In this way, you set into operation vibratory forces which go out and which make their impress felt somewhere, and which, arousing into activity or uniting with other forces, set about to actualize your desires. No good things shall be withheld from him who lives in harmony with the higher laws and forces. There are no desires that shall not be satisfied to the one who knows and who wisely uses the powers with which he or she is endowed. Your sleep will be more quiet and peaceful and refreshing, and so your power increased mentally, physically, and spiritually, simply by sending out as you fall asleep thoughts of love and goodwill, thoughts of peace and harmony for all. In this way you are connecting yourself with all the forces in the universe that make for peace and harmony. A friend who is known the world over through his work along humane lines has told me that many times in the middle of the night he is awakened suddenly and there comes to his mind, as a flash of inspiration, a certain plan in connection with his work. And as he lies there quietly and opens himself to it, the method for its successful carrying out all reveal themselves to him clearly. In this way, many plans are entered upon and brought to a successful culmination that otherwise would never be thought of, plans that seem indeed marvelous to the world at large. He is a man with a sensitive organism, his life in thorough harmony with the higher laws, and given wholly and unreservedly to the work to which he has dedicated. Just how and from what sources these inspirations come, he does not fully know. Possibly no one does, though each may have his theory. But this we do know, and it is all we need to know, now, at least, that to the one who lives in harmony with the higher laws of his being, and who opens himself to them, they come. Visions and inspirations of the highest order will come in the degree that we make for them the right conditions. One who has studied deeply in the subject in hand has said, "To receive education spiritually while the body is resting in sleep is a perfectly normal and orderly experience, and would occur definitely and satisfactorily in the lives of all of us if we paid more attention to internal and consequently less to external states with their supposed but unreal necessities. Our thoughts make us what we are here and hereafter, and our thoughts are often busier by night than by day. For when we are asleep to the exterior, we can be wide awake to the interior world. And the unseen world is a substantial place, the conditions of which are entirely regulated by mental and moral attainments. When we are not deriving information through outward avenues of sensation, we are receiving instruction through interior channels of perception, and when this fact is understood for what it is worth, it will become a universal custom for persons to take to sleep with them the special subject on which they most earnestly desire particular instruction. The Pharaoh type of person dreams, and so does his butler and baker. But the Joseph type, which is that of the truly gifted seer, both dreams and interprets. But why do not the Pharaoh the power of interpreting his dreams? Why was Joseph the type of the truly gifted seer? Why did he not only dream, but he also had the power to interpret both his own dreams and the dreams of others? Simply read the lives of the two. He who runs may read. In all true power it is, after all, living the life that tells. And in proportion as one lives the life, does not he only attain to the highest power and joy for himself, but he also becomes of ever great service to all the world. One need remain in no hell longer than he himself chooses to, and the moment he chooses not to remain longer, not all the powers in the universe can prevent him leaving it. One can raise to any heaven he himself chooses, and when he chooses to rise, all the powers of the universe combine to help him heavenward. When one awakes from sleep and so returns to conscious life, he is in a peculiarly receptive and impressionable state. All relations with the material world have for a time been shut off. The mind is in a freer and more natural state, resembling somewhat a sensitive plate, where impressions can readily leave their traces. This is why many times the highest and truest impressions come to one in the early morning hours, before the activities of the day and their attendant distractions have exerted an influence. This is one reason why many people can do their best work in the early hours of the day. But this fact is also a most valuable one in connection with molding of everyday life. This mind is at this time as a clean sheet of paper. We can most valuably use this quiet, receptive, impressionable period by wisely directing the activities of the mind along the highest and most desirable paths, and thus, so to speak, set the pace for the day. Each morning is a fresh beginning. We are, as it were, just beginning life. We have it entirely in our own hands. And when this morning with its fresh beginning comes, all yesterdays should be yesterdays, with which we have nothing to do. Sufficient is it to know that the way we lived our yesterday has determined for us our today. And again, when the morning with its fresh beginning comes, all tomorrows should be tomorrows, with which we have nothing to do. Sufficient to know that the way we live our today determines our tomorrow. Every day is a fresh beginning. Every morn is the world made new. You who are weary of sorrow and sinning, here is a beautiful hope for you, a hope for me, and a hope for you. All the past things are past and over, the tasks are done, and the tears are shed. Yesterday's errors let yesterday cover. Yesterday's wounds, which smarted and bled, are held with the healing which night has shed. Let them go, since we cannot relive them, cannot undo and cannot atone. God in His mercy receive, forgive them. Only the new days are our own. Today is ours, and today alone. Here are the skies all burnished brightly. Here is the spent earth all reborn. Here are the tired limbs sprinkling lightly to face the sun and to share with the morn in the chrism of dew and the cool of dawn. Every day is a fresh beginning. Listen, my soul, to the glad refrain, and, spite of old sorrow and older sinning, and puzzles forecasted and possible pain, take heart with the day and begin again. Simply the first hour of this new day, with all its riches and glory, with all its sublime and eternity-determining possibilities, and each succeeding hour as it comes, but not before it comes. This is the secret of character building. This simple method will bring anyone to the realization of the highest life that can be even conceived of. And there is nothing in this connection that can be conceived of that cannot be realized somehow, somewhen, somewhere. This brings such a life with the possibilities of all, for there is no one, if really in earnest and if he really desires it, who cannot live to his highest for a single hour. But even though there should be, if he is only earnest in his endeavor, then, through the law that likes builds like, he will be able to come a little nearer to it the next hour, and still nearer the next hour, and the next, until sooner or later comes the time when it becomes natural, and any other would require the effort. In this way, one becomes in love and in league with the highest and best in the universe, and as consequence, the highest and the best in the universe becomes in love and in league with him. They aid him at every turn. They seem literally to move all things his way, because forsooth, he has first moved their way. End of chapter. Meet me at the next video where we continue with the next chapter titled The Realization of Perfect Peace. If you haven't done so, please do hit the like button, share this video with like-minded people, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel to be notified of when the next video comes up or other videos. Thank you.